All right. Well, again, welcome everyone. We got a really exciting topic today. If you didn't get a chance to check out our announcement at ContentCon last month, like I said, we were in London and announced everything. If you didn't get a chance to check that out, we're going to go through a lot of those details today. I'm joined by the man who delivered that demo on stage, Tim, and my counterpart, Lo.
Hi, everyone.
Part of our technical marketing.
We also delivered it, but then holding hands with everybody, on the first row.
Definitely.
Everybody
Team effort
delivered
there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to give you a little bit of an intro and background on Agent OS and kind of how we got here. And then we're going to kick it over to Tim. He's going to show us in-app what Agent OS looks like, how it works, all that. We're going to answer all of your questions, so be sure and submit them. There's a place on screen to do so. We'll try and address them as quickly as we can if it makes sense to do it in the moment, but we also have time at the end, and we want to make sure you get all your questions answered. So let's dive in. I think we should just start by pointing out one thing. Like, agents are really hot right now. It's a buzzword. You're seeing a lot of people come to market with their offerings. I think one thing to be clear about, at Contentstack, we are not part of that crowd. We have been working on agents for years now, right? This started back in 2023 when we released Automate. This was our no-code workflow builder that allowed developers and business users to come in, create integrations or cross-platform events, things like that, that would all play into their content operations. After that, we came out with an AI assistant that really brought generative AI into the authoring experience, allowing you to brainstorm or swap out, edit, make optimizations on text, things like that. Then we saw the opportunity to take those AI capabilities and plug them into automation workflows. And so adding AI connectors. And quickly realized that one of the most important parts of this is that AI output can be very generic. And so making sure that those outputs are on brand is just highly critical. And so BrandKit, we released to keep control, put some constraints and governance around how those AI outputs perform and how they're produced. And that is how we arrive today, where we have Agent OS. We've had this foundation in place, and allowing us to take all of the learnings that are required, all the things that you have to overcome in order to come up with a successful product that delivers value. And so what does an AI agent look like at Contentstack, right? This give you a quick just intro here, but this really plays a role into how you build agents in Contentstack. Every agent needs a model, and this is critical because at Contentstack, we don't force you to use an out-of-the-box model. We do have one to make it easy for you, but if you want to bring your own model, your own credentials, you can do so. We provide it with instructions. We want to make sure that our agent has a goal. It knows exactly how to carry out and behave. Context here is critical. This is one of the most crucial parts of a successful agentic experience, because without context, you're just basically working in a generic ChatGPT type environment. Giving it context of your content, your audience data, and your brand allows, like we talked about, those outputs to be consistent and on brand. And then we need tools, right? An agent needs abilities. It needs to be able to carry out actions. And so we assign it a set of tools and actions that it can choose from to carry out tasks based on what its instructions or goals are. And again, we're going to go into this a little more. Tim's going to show you here as we build custom agents. It'll connect a little bit more. But we know that the other thing that's really important here, and I touched on this a little bit, but generic AI outputs aren't usable. And in order to have a successful AI solution within the business, you need to be able to trust what's happening. It needs to be able to work at the enterprise level. And so again, having the context of all of your content, your audience, and your brand data supports that. And the control that you're offered, all of the workflows, permissions, roles, the flexibility to bring your own models, all of that, you have control on what that experience looks like. And then there's consistency, right? With BrandKit and the ability to put those rules in place, you can make sure that AI outputs are producing at scale and consistent in the way that you want. So Agent OS, what we're going to kind of dive into, it has kind of three main components that we're going to explore today. The first is Polaris, which is a conversational AI companion that's available throughout the platform. It can help you answer questions, carry out tasks, or offer insights. There are custom agents that you can build through Agent Builder to build out or carry out very specific sets of tasks. And then there's the digital concierge. And this is something that you could publish to your website or app, and is a conversational AI that can engage with website visitors or your users. And again, based on how you create or design that experience, could answer questions, access account information, personalize or tailor the website experience, which we will explore a little more of right now. Have a little bit more details here, but I think what everyone wants to see is just the actual experience.
We're just going to
Yes.
do it, and then
Let's
this
get
will be
into
very
it.
clear. Yeah, exactly.
All right. I'm going to pass it over to you, Tim.
Awesome. So what I think we should start with, though, when we say all, about all that Agent OS stuff, this is not released yet, right? Most people here know about it. We have talked about it openly, but it's going to get a lot more love than it even has had right now. So once you start using it, it is actually a lot more stable than it is now. And I'm not saying it's unstable, but we really need to make sure that this stuff works at scale, and it's always like repeatable and deterministic and stuff, right? So for you guys, that's really important. So can I have my screen on this? On the screen. Oh, here we go. Nice. So what I want to talk to you about today is it's basically a similar demo that we did at ContentCon, but we have a little bit more time today, so we can talk a little bit more. I'm hoping Lo will interrupt me here and there to actually give some more context, but also ask your questions. We are here for your questions. We love the interaction, and if a question actually leads us to a slightly different area, we might take it there if we feel like, hey, this works for the whole group. So you feel free to influence us with your clever questions.
Yes. And I'll chime in, Tim.
Yeah, exactly. We were like, Lo and I have this thing where I just, I'm a product person now, so I keep speaking, and Lo just has to, jump in somewhere and then make me chill. So what we want to show here is that, like, we have this story that we created, and this really also shows how you can use the data that you can collect based on how users use your website to actually look at that data, and based on that create your content. So we're slightly flipping the script, right? Where traditionally you would just know your audience somehow through some research or some analytics that you already have, and then you figure out, I'm going to build a bunch of pages and see if this converts. So now what we want to do is flip that and say, well, there's a whole bunch of data that we have collected for you based on what all your visitors are doing, and we can now give you through AI basically hooks into saying, hey, your opportunity lies here. Why don't you make that content? So it's more data driven. And that's what is really interesting here. And so the story of the demo is basically here. So I want to go on a holiday.
Actually, Alyssa, can you switch back to my screen real quick as we just while we're setting the stage here, Tim? Just before we jump into this, I think this could be helpful if we just put what I have on my screen up, because we're basically gonna show you an example, a pretend customer.
Oh yeah, here. Exactly. This fits. Yeah.
So let's maybe give the plot here, but we're going to show you as a Red Panda Resort is a high-end luxury resort catering to premier vacation travelers. We're going to pretend we're part of the marketing team there, and we're trying to cater towards that audience, influencing them to purchase some kind of vacation package, right?
Right.
So now let's pass it over to you, and you are a person who's interested in traveling somewhere, right? And so you're on a social feed, and you're being targeted with an ad from Red Panda.
So this is part one of this demo, where we're showing you me as the end user and how we can use our AI in different spots to make personalization work more and more. And the bigger the context is, the smaller the audience gets. And at one point, it's one-to-one with me with an AI agent. So again, I'm looking to go to some really lovely faraway place, and I really love like water sports and adventurous things, and I've saved up my money, and I now see this Maldives post here, which is exciting me. And they're saying, hey, there's actually a bunch of offers that we have. So of course, I'm going to click on that link. And so by clicking on this, I'm already showing a little bit of intent, right? So there's a little bit of context already added by the fact that I am interested in looking at the packages of the Red Panda Resort. And so we have this little debugging tool here on the page. This is just for us to show you in the demo. You wouldn't actually put this on your website, but this is actually very handy because our data and insights tracking tag JavaScript is on this page. And you can see, hey, I'm inbound from social because I have a UTM campaign in here. Right, so it put me already in this audience, and I'm currently anonymous, and I'm a standard customer. I haven't shown any interest in potentially being someone who pays more or less, or just someone who browses. But based on the page that we just saw here, there's already a bunch of information here about what's on that page. And so these interests, and these are basically topics, and these topics are generated by the JavaScript just looking at the page and already figuring out, hey, if I now go to another page, what you'll see is that like in a few seconds, these numbers start to update a little bit. You see, suddenly there's more here. Like water actually changed a little bit. And there's a whole bunch of things that it's now looking at. But the most interesting one here is that it actually says, hey, we have a lookalike model. So because I just...
Tim, can you zoom in a little bit, possibly?
Of course, I can. Is that better?
Yeah.
Cool. So what I did, I just clicked on like a water sport reef snorkeling thing. And so when I actually now also go to sailing, these are like pretty expensive excursions, right? Just $2.99 a person for just a few hours. It's like really fancy stuff. And you just saw that based on what other people have been clicking on the website that actually ended up spending a bunch of money that became premier customers, I now start to look like them a little bit. And so we didn't exactly set this up ourselves. This is actually the AI in our data and insights tool figuring out, oh, you kind of look like a premier customer. And if that score gets high enough, we're just going to upsell you. And so I am now not exactly telling you an agent story just yet, but soon. And so right now, we're almost over that threshold where maybe this... when they feel like, okay, you're probably going to be a premier customer. So now I went to the 4th page, all in that same category. It's like, okay, we actually have exclusive packages. So, well, just show me now. And so what now happened, I actually went back to that previous page. This is also the lists page with all these packages, but this is a different variant. And now they selected a product for me. And this is already quite personalized to the context, right? Because I looked at like sailing and parasailing, those kind of water sporty things. However, I want to go for a week, not just 4 days. It's like the Maldives is far away from Europe, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
So
yeah,
yeah, that's like
travel
that's
days.
good.
Yeah.
If I spend the money. And so what you just saw pop up here is our concierge. And this is an Agent OS agent. And so, hey, it looks like you're interested in these adventure packages. And so like, I want to go a week. And so this agent knows about your platform, your Contentstack platform. It knows about the products you have. It knows all this stuff. And so I just said, I want to go a week. And it actually figured out, oh, there's actually a 6-day all-inclusive thrill seeker package. And it just kind of kept that the same, but made it 6 days. So that's already cool. But I really like diving. So I can just say, can I dive? And of course, what you see here right now is somewhat curated because we have to be able to demo this really well. But you can also make this slightly more open and make it choose very specific products to show. Because right now, this is kind of like everything here is super personalized because it's now saying, okay, we have scuba diving, but you need a certification for PADI open waters. Like, yeah, I actually have one because of course I've prepped for this. I already have one of those. And so now that it knows that I have one, we can actually now change out one of those. So let's change out sailing. And so this agent now is changing the personalization rules for me. And I just changed sailing here to scuba diving. Look at this. This is just magical. And where it gets even more cool, in my opinion, when we now look at the data, I am now also a PADI certified audience in the personalization. So this agent from Contentstack, or now from you when you use this, it actually can talk to all the different products in Contentstack and say, well, now put this person in this audience. But there's also a bunch of other stuff it could do. And so right now, this is where we leave it. But what I can do is actually, well, let's just book this thing. And so it actually personalized the 3 things for me. But if Brandon or Lo had done this and they had clicked on other things, this package would have been different. And we chose to do it this way. You don't have to. You have all the control that you want. But so let me just add my email here.
While you're doing that, like, I think too, one of the opportunities with like putting together packages like this, right, is it can be data informed. So if you have an adventurer or thrill seeker package, you might want to pre-populate it with, you know, the events or activities that are most popular based on your data, right? So it's not just random packages or random events. And
so the final thing I wanted to show, now that I've paid, what actually happened is now I'm a full Premier customer now. And I'm, of course, my likelihood is 100%. But it also noticed I gave my email, right? So I now have a customer tab. And you can actually see how much money I spent doing this demo over the last few weeks.
Big spender.
I'm spending an ungodly amount in this resort. But it now knows
an upgrade of some kind.
And yeah, exactly. Please, like, but the interesting part here is that it now had a record already in Salesforce. Like we have a Salesforce integration in this demo, and it just merged that with whatever that anonymous thing was. And now you can see that this is a much richer, like there's much more stuff. And water sports is like 100, obviously, because I keep, doing that stuff. And so there's all this has now also changed because of the history that I already have here. And so I know we're going to have to go towards what all these agents are doing and how this works, but we wanted to show you that all this data-driven stuff is really helping you to use your agents effectively. And so right now we went from, I show a little bit of intent, but I'm completely anonymous, to getting more context and more based on what I click. It was kind of a self-driving AI in our data and insights that kind of at one point decided, okay, I'm just gonna, upsell you this thing. And we didn't actually save much in our cookies. You just have an ID and that's it. So for GDPR, this is fully safe. We have to say that. I think it's important. And of course, you get to choose how much you do with that. But by default, our stuff doesn't actually scrape user data and does all the crazy things. You choose what you put into it. It's important to say.
Yeah.
But
then there's a question here that maybe we could just address, that it's saying, does this information push over to our personalization system, like Salesforce or SAP? So I think and we'll maybe show this a little bit, but when we show how like custom agents are built, part of those abilities or tools that you can give it access to are your third-party systems and tools across your ecosystem. So yes, the answer is yes there. And based on how you want to customize or deliver this experience.
Yeah. Because we now chose to then merge that customer record that I have in Salesforce with whatever my anonymous thing was. And so now I've spent 10,000 nights here apparently, which is kind of fun. But like it merged that, but we chose to send that and merge that. Because some companies who are maybe in France or whatever don't have the luxury of doing that. And so it's up to the people implementing how much data you share. So we went
and I think like for governance in general, right? Like you want to have that level of control, regardless of whether there's like a policy or something that you need to adhere to. It's important for governance in terms of your organization anyway.
Exactly. Also, all those things are slightly boring in an agent demo, but we have to say them because it's just really important for businesses. So I'll say one thing here. So we kind of went from anonymous to showing intent to getting more context and then going to a one-on-one personalization with this agent, then to buying. And so you start, when personalization starts, it's kind of just, it's interesting. It kind of works well, but at one point it just hits you and you're like, oh, that actually really knew what I wanted and I converted, right? And of course, this is a demo, so of course I'm going to convert. But just put your thinking cap on and see how you can use this stuff yourself. So this was the part where we just experienced this thing as an end user, right? But now let's think about how are we going to actually build an experience like this from the Contentstack side, from the CMS angle, from the data and insights angle. And what we tend to see is like, before I talk about whatever this lovely graph is here, in our
Let's
story.
let's go back to my
Yep.
screen real
Oh
quick
yeah,
because I
we
can
go to your
give you
screen.
the
You have that
then we
one
can
slide.
paint. Yeah, I have a
Yeah, we have a couple more questions too.
Oh yeah,
this might
let's
might
put
be a
that
good
slide
point to
up and then
address.
we answer the
Yeah.
questions.
Okay, so one of the questions here is how is the context fed into the LLM, specifically CDP and site content? Is there a way to feed other data sources like PDFs? And again, I think what you give an agent access or context of is up to you. But yes, you can customize what context is given. But things like you mentioned PDFs or other types of content, we'll go into a little bit more. That's all part of brand kit and things that you can put into your brand kit to give it the context that's
I
needed.
love how this question spans like 3 of our products.
Yes.
So yes to all, Meng. And what you just saw was anonymized data that our CDP actually figured out based on what people have been browsing like. Plus, when we started doing that chat with the LLM or with the agent, the context of whatever we were chatting was sent to that agent as an automation. And we'll talk about what that means in a sec. And that automation was able to kind of figure out what is the data I'm allowed to touch and how can I grab that, and if it, what the tone of voice, all that stuff. It touches multiple products, but you have all the flexibility that you need. And so yeah, I'm not sure it fully answers the question, but all that stuff works between our products for sure.
Yes.
All right. So is there another one, Brandon, we have to talk about? Or should
Yes,
we wrap
there's
on?
another question. Can the data that is learning be something easily viewed and accessible to be shared with marketing so they can use that to identify potential campaigns or promotions to do an offer? What can we see or
This is
what we
literally
can
on
see
my
as
screen right
features
now.
from it?
So I'm going to
Yeah.
show you this in a sec.
Yep. This
Because
is
we realize that that is the crux of what you guys need. You don't only
exactly.
need analytics. You don't need only data. You need actually a mix.
Yeah, and so I guess what we were trying to kind of going back, we showed you a little bit of what a customer experience might look like on a website, but now let's shift gears a little bit. Let's pretend and assume the role of the Red Panda marketing team. They've always focused on relaxation topics related. They've found that's always kind of geared towards the premier customers they target, but now they're looking for additional opportunities to market to that audience. And so, what else besides just relaxation could they focus on, either in top content topics or product offerings or whatever that could be appealing to that type of audience? And so they're trying to figure out, what does our audience care about, right? What topics do they care about? And that's something we've always kind of had to either guess or infer based on what tools we have. But let's show you how Data and Insights does it for you.
Yeah, and so just like Brandon was saying, if we look at this is data here, these are essentially the topics that we saw in that little tool we just had on the page with all the bars, right? And so these are the topics of the pages that we have. And the bigger the circle, the more people actually were interested in that. And the higher the circle in the graph, the more content that was created about it. And so on the left side here, you can see standard customers are at this point in time some generally interested in culture, food, relaxation, serene stuff like that. And then premier customers are actually much more interested in adventure, sun, luxury, hiking, all inclusive. And so if we actually have a look at, let's say, last year, we can actually render that here and see the change, because we started this last year. And you can see that we're kind of sitting in the middle. We don't have that much data just yet. And because this is big and it is high, we just made a bunch of relaxation content. Like there's 8 pages on it. But if you now actually look at how that changed over a year, you can see the inertia of where things are going, right? So culture, food, relaxation went to the standard customers, and adventure and luxury and hiking and all those things went to the right side. And so,
hey Tim, what if like I'm not a data scientist and you're speaking a
taking the
different
words
language
out
to
of
me
my
right now?
mouth here, Brandon. You're
Because you're saying a lot of
making my
things
own
and they
grade.
sound, I know you're smart, and you're speaking in a way that sounds like you're smart, but how do we like relate to anyone here? How does anyone make sense of this?
Yes. And this is where the magic starts to happen, because I was about to say I just needed 25 sentences to explain you this silly graph here. But what if we just did this? Now we just ask the Polaris agent to see, just look at this graph for me and just give me the best opportunities that I could use this week where people are going that are essentially premier likelihood kind of customers. Where are they spending their, browsing behavior? What are they looking at? And as it turns out, it's thrills, it's all inclusive, it's story ideas about hiking. And so the AI, if you look at this, it actually looked at an agent ability called a tool called opportunities, which is an automation. We'll talk about that in a sec. But for the technical people on the call, this is essentially the MCP protocol. And this agent figured out I have a tool for opportunities. So I'm just going to fire that and then come back with some information. And that tool you can scope to what information it's allowed to see. Obviously, we'll see that in a sec. So we just had this non-deterministic interface that I just opened on this page and say, give me some help. Like, I don't know what to do. What is the best opportunity? And so now that we know, let's do hiking and thrills, right? So now I can do
Hey,
this.
Tim, real quick, there's a question that we can maybe address right here. 'Cause it's
Yeah,
saying, how
sure.
are these keywords pulled in from the content? Does it come from all field types and content models, including JSON, RTE, and taxonomies? I think worth calling out here that you can, these topics can be pulled from, yes, all of this if you want. If you don't have anywhere to start, data and insights, if you install the real-time events tag and start pulling this in, it's all going to be inferred via machine learning and AI, and will get you started on those topics if you don't have them. But if you do need them to be customized to what you already have or matched to your taxonomies or whatever, then you can set them up that way.
Exactly. So Corey, we have in our data and insights, we have like a connection. So what you can do is any system you have, you can connect into it. And so you can have all your Contentstack fields, models, URLs, whatever you have, put it into the CDP and it will just do it. But like what Brandon was saying, this one actually doesn't use that. This is just a JavaScript tag that looks at the theme of the page, uses machine learning, and then builds up your database. So you can do both.
Yeah. But either way, you're giving context, right? And that's what you want.
Exactly.
Because if you didn't have this data and you ask Polaris, you might get something else, right? But that's the power of this. You're using data to make informed decisions. And now your agents are also using that same data to make informed decisions to give you a good output.
So what I'm now going to say is create me a page about the thrills of hiking in the Maldives, and please use our hiking assets, because I know we have some information already on hiking. And so we went from, we basically can just ask Polaris kind of anything to do with what you can do in Contentstack as an editor. And so what it's now doing is going to start reasoning. It's like, okay, so I need assets, right? Because I asked for that. So it looks at the asset agent. And so this asset agent is now going to be kind of figuring out, hey, do I have hiking images? Sure, let me just have it back. And so now it's doing all these abilities. Look, I'm going to get, in this case, actually, it doesn't really do what I was hoping it would do. It's now getting all the assets and filtering it later, which works, but sometimes it just finds hiking assets. And so that's the interesting part, right, about how these agents sometimes work. So now it most likely found images. And so now this orchestrator agent is going to then just open up another agent and says, hey, well, what is a page? Can I figure out what a page is? What are the fields that I have? And so if we just let this run for a sec and take a step back, like what this is actually doing, it is kind of acting like your assistant somehow. I'm not sure we generally say that word, but it's helping you. And it's kind of figuring out, hey, okay, I need to make a page. Let me figure out if I have a content type for page. Let me just get that now. And then find the fields, create and it already has the right images. And we are using BrandKit here. So it knows the type of writing, images, titles. It knows exactly how we tend to do this on this project. And so it's using all that. And it's like, it's even filling out like SEO metadata. And actually it just made the page. And so now this is the big thing. Let me just click open in Visual Builder to see what this built for us.
And maybe this is worth calling out that this is, I think, one of the key differences between like an automation and an agent is an automation. You can give it a set of deterministic rules or paths to follow, or even put some kind of like business logic in there to loop or conditionals, whatever. But what will happen as soon as if it can't find what it needs, or you just told it to create a page, right? You didn't give it a content type or anything like that. In automations, usually those types of things will fail because they'll run into some kind of issue or will have some kind of error or something like that that doesn't produce a result. But agents can reason, right? We have given it a set of abilities, a set of other agents that we have given it access to that it can go and work with to find the best solution. And that's, I think, one of the biggest things to call out here is it's doing stuff that we may not know what it needs to do, but to carry out and accomplish that goal.
Interestingly, it did it differently than I expected. But then look, it actually made a page. But to be fair, this is not what I expected. It's only the hero. So sometimes there's a hiccup.
I think that's the first time we've seen that. Yeah.
This is one of the first times we have seen that, because also when you looked at the reasoning, it was starting with looking at images rather than asking, hey, what is a page?
Page, right?
So it might have done a different approach. No, it doesn't actually matter now. I could do it again, but it takes a little bit too much time.
Why don't we show what?
But I also think, I was just going to say, I also think it's important, like in a situation like this is why you would never leave an agent up to its own devices, right? And then just publish this. Like, it's not meant to be a replacement. It is meant to be a helper to make you move faster, but you always want to go in and check because something like this can happen. Or even if it made the full page, right, you would still want to go in and look through that and make sure it's okay.
Exactly. And so
I think it's also worth calling out all of the steps that we kind of took leading up to where we are right now. If you ever wanted to put new content out, maybe we just quickly illustrate what that looks like.
Redo it while you speak. I just want to redo it. You speak.
Yeah, that's a great idea. But I think if you're trying to figure out, one, you have to figure out what type of topics or content you want to talk about or create. Then there's all of the ideating and brainstorming that maybe takes place somewhere outside of the platform, requires other people. Maybe there's approvals, things like that, all these things that happen. I know there's lots of customers I've spoken with who it takes weeks to get a piece of content up, and just given all the red tape and everything like that's involved. But we just went from nothing to a page that's ready to be published, and maybe it's not at 100%, and we're going to try and get it a little closer this time. But if we can get it there 90%, then getting to published stage, having that take place that much faster is just where we see some of the huge advantages here and efficiency gains.
Yeah, it's a huge time saver.
And it's also, I think, like worth calling out that we didn't just guess. We're not just saying, hey, we think this might be interesting to write about, right? It's data informed, right? It's backed up by what our audience is actually engaging with and cares about. So you feel better and more confident about how you're going to market with that kind of stuff.
You know what's interesting, Brendan? It replies differently now. Either OpenAI just changed its model for different reasoning, or we did. I'm going to check that in a sec because this is really interesting.
Did you ask the exact same question as first time?
I'm just going to do exactly the same question here.
Okay.
And the blessing and curse of being subject to other LLMs is that,
this is a great match, actually great bridge here, Brandon, because we now chose to just use, this is, I think, OpenAI. We can also choose Anthropic and whatever. But if you have your own agents or your own credentials, maybe you're on AWS Bedrock or you're on Google, you can just add in your own credentials and use your own agents. Like, that's totally possible. So while this is running, because now it's going to the entry agent first, so I'm thinking this is good. These agents, you can kind of customize them. And if we look at, we can see here, okay, so the custom agent I'm going to open now actually uses OpenAI. But you can, of course, you can actually say here, let's go to the next one. You can actually choose a bunch of different ones here, right? And so we're actually adding even more here. So these agents are right now. This is a very simple custom agent that doesn't do too much right now, but this is just for you to see how you can set it up. To be fair, this interface is going to be a little bit easier once we actually launch it because you can do so much, it's almost overwhelming. But it also gives you the freedom to do a lot of cool things. So you can give it some instructions.
Yeah,
Then
this is where we would put like the goal or what its behavior is, and then
exactly.
yeah, the
And
abilities here. Yeah.
this is where the magic happens because a lot of times agents, if you just go to like a generic like Claude desktop or whatever, it's kind of non-deterministic, right? And you're gonna have to hope that the model understands you and give you something deterministic every time, which is really hard. These
Yeah.
tools make you much more able to have a deterministic outcome of what you want, right? And so we have all these different abilities that you can give it. Like you can give it like an automation. So in Contentstack Automate, you can drag and drop and build your own automations with your own inputs and outputs that are always the same. You can add code, web hooks, anything you want, like, send something to Slack or, update a database somewhere, whatever you want to do, you can do it in automation. So an automation can be a tool for an agent. We also have sub agents like an entry agent that has a whole bunch of baked in stuff that it knows about entries. But you can also see we have actions, and actions are basically all the action steps that our automation product offers. And so this will be an ever growing list of stuff, right? You can create releases, you can send messages to Slack, you can update entries, create, Asana tasks. This is basically never ending awesomeness of fun things you can do. And, you can make Notion pages or like whatever you want.
I think
And
it's just
so,
worth calling out or repeating here that if you have been using automations, automate and using automations, they're not going away, right? There's certainly a use case for very deterministic workflows. And if you want that to be a part of an agent's abilities, then that's what Tim's explaining here is that you could have a very strict automation workflow that you assign as an ability that an agent could carry out. But and I think that's one of the key things worth mentioning here.
yeah.
We
And
have
so,
a few, like, we got some questions
Yeah, we
building
got some
up.
questions
yeah,
here.
I'm
So
sure. Yeah,
Uh,
let's go.
is our
so
page done
one,
creating?
yeah, what is an example
Have fun.
of how this could be used in a non-marketing site like government or education? One example I'm thinking of is you could have an agent, let's say you have a government or educational site and you have policies or lessons or courses, right? You could create an agent that always suggests related courses or related lessons or related policies. Like also if you have something like an intranet that is for internal use, you can also use it as a page builder. If you have set layouts, you can have it create new layouts based on components that you already have. So there's a wide range of use cases, not just for a marketing site or even an e-commerce site, right?
Yeah, and you can even just have it look at maybe like let it run every night to see if there's any violations to your rules
Rules,
or if there's
exactly.
spelling mistakes or it can do anything an agent can or a human almost, right? As long as you configure it right. And so this is part of that configuration part. Like there's this brand kit integration here, and I wanted to highlight that before we look at the page we just created. So on this one, in this project, I don't have a
This
brand kit, but
this
branding.
is
But
an
no,
example of there's a question that's asking if you can have multiple brand kits. And so
yes,
Yeah.
yes, if
many.
you can see right here, you can select from the different brand kits you had available. But yes, multiple brands or those who have different brands under an umbrella or something like that can all have different brand
Yes,
kits on the same
and
site.
you can also make one brand kit with like 10 voices.
Right.
Like the voices can, change up. So we can go there quickly because I feel like we don't show this enough. Let's see if in this project I have one. So we have a Red Panda brand kit actually, and see there's a bunch of voices here. So let's do the fun family adventure. Like this voice emphasizes excitement, togetherness, playful, blah. This kind of stuff, right? And you can actually say casual, persuasive, lighthearted, but then also you can add insights and sample content. But you can see this is a lot of lines. You can actually have 80,000 lines here of information, or maybe this is characters or words. Anyways, it's a lot. And so in my personal brand kit voices, I fill this up and I say,
Yeah.
use the stop words that I use when I write. right? Be cheerful, but also be a little bit spicy because that's how I write on LinkedIn, right? I can put all that in here. I can say, keep it short, keep it only to two. Okay, so Christine, it's characters. Thanks for that. And
Excellent.
so there's lots here. And then we also have a knowledge vault where you can basically add any sort of data. And so it uses the data in a knowledge vault to inform itself about how it can speak. If you put your products in here, it can actually talk about those products in what you generate. So this is a very important part of what you do in these, what you set up in these agents. And well, now that we tried it the second time, I really wish this time it is
Yes, let's
today.
see. But brand kit in general is how you provide your context layer, right? And it also helps you with governance, but it does lots of things in terms of your brand voice and knowing, and you can input about your organization along a context sort of hierarchy, right? So not just the organizational context, but who you might be talking to, such as personas, but who you are, right?
Yep.
You're asking this question as XYZ role, so I might ask it and say, well, I'm a technical marketer. Think about me in this role as you provide me with an answer.
Exactly. So let's have a look at this page.
This page looks a little, yeah, it's a lot.
So
Yeah,
it
this is
actually
much better.
understood the data model, and it understood we had all these components, and it used BrandKit to write this copy also. And so all this stuff went through the BrandKit to figure out what can I write, what images do we have. So it figured out all the right images, right? Family adventure stuff or hiking as a couple. You see that it did copy up a few images, it reused them, but this is also not something that actually replaces you. It gives you a base. And so
And yeah, you might need to swap like local wildlife, right? That looks more like that image probably fits more with the couple, the couple hikes or whatever. But you
yeah,
can
let's see.
easily
I'm just
swap
gonna
those
grab
out
this
now.
one here.
Right.
Right, so yeah, so this kind of looks nicer now. So how about so let's publish this and then come back because I do want to show the personalization stuff because
Well,
this
we do
is
need to.
still.
We have quite a few questions we want to make sure and get to as well.
Yeah.
So
Want to do questions first? I'm all good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's
let's
do
go.
let's.
questions.
Yeah, sure.
If I build a workflow in Automate, can that be exposed through MCP tools? Do you want to just touch on the MCP stuff real quick, Tim?
Oh, I know Patrick has this question. That's a good question. I know you were gonna have some sort of question like this. So right now, our Contentstack MCP server that you can download from npm does not have that ability, but it will in the future. So Christine and I are fully on board, and we really want that. We want the MCP that you install, let's say in your local desktop Claude or in ChatGPT, to be able to also get these automations and be super integrated with AgentOS. What you should know is that AgentOS itself, how agents actually work, is all MCP protocol, and it's all like the tools that they use, the way you set up the tools yourself, that's all MCP protocol. That doesn't mean that the MCP product that we created is the same as this. It just uses the same stuff. I hope that makes sense. But Patrick, we're due for a call anyways, where I talk about this a bit more deeper.
So next question says from Eric, this is a great example of building a new page from data. Let's say we want to tweak messaging. Is it able to analyze pages across the sites and make broad updates on the messaging?
Yes. I cannot show it now, but yes. That's a
Yes.
very simple question.
I was like, this is going to be a very short answer.
But that is an incredible use case for a custom agent.
Yes.
Right? You can make a custom agent that runs every night, for example, that just looks at certain amounts of content based on data, and maybe it looks at like some external tool for SEO or whatever, and it can actually do updates and present those to you in the next morning. Or you can actually say, I don't think I have anything installed here, but we could actually have like an automation here that you just click a button and like, oh yeah, there's a few things that Christine, I know you're in the chat, that you actually added here. I won't do it now, but you can make your own automations. When you hit a button here, it will fire up one of those automations, and then it can grab all the pages and give you options and change messaging and then like update it here and say, hey, are you happy with this? Yes, let's go. Like there's lots of ways into how to do that. There's
Yes.
another way also that's actually quite interesting. If we wanted to, is I can actually grab the AI assistant here and have BrandKit in here. and actually say, well, let's grab the Red Panda brand kit and optimize for SEO, for example. Like I can just click this now and let's see what comes out. It didn't do that much, but it's now explore the secret hiking paths of the
Yeah.
Maldives. It's slightly like snappier. And so this fit our brand kit basically, but I'm sure there are more questions.
I think
Yes.
this relates to Paige, your question as well about agents learning or adjusting to what you do. Is certainly if you're building into a custom agent and based on, you can either create a very granular or specific way that it's adjusting, like Tim kind of just mentioned, where it's looking for things, or based on just its behavior, it's learning from what it's engaging with and what it has context of.
If it learns, we'd have to ask Christine for a bit more details. But what I tend to do is not really rely on it learning. I would rely on just adding a bit more instructions in its context window, because then you control it much more.
Right.
So, Paige, once you start using this, just experiment with the context window of where you can say you do this but not this, and then like output that but not that. Because I'm sure if you want to do this right, you're going to have a lot of instructions because you own your brand, you know that stuff, right? And so over time these agents will get a lot better at figuring out all your pages and just making a similar one, right? I've had it where, and Patrick, you're going to like this one, where I made a proof of concept MCP on my local machine that actually, when I say make a page, it actually looks at all the other pages and figures out the data model, how they are used, and it just makes me a page that's similar to the homepage, right? So, but I instructed it that. And that's a really interesting one. And so, Paige, sorry that it's not a super direct answer, but it's so open right now and things are changing so fast. Maybe the best answer is this is how it is now. Imagine how it is in 2 months. Maybe
Right.
that's the best answer.
So we have some more questions. Corey asks, is this going to work with highly flexible pages? For instance, pages that use modular blocks with a lot of different block options, each with their own options on configuration.
That's what this is,
Yeah.
literally. Like look at this one. This is a modular block for a hero. It has a headline and image, details. It has, you can go full image or you can go half image. We have text color, dark or light. We have layouts. So this one is like, this is a decent amount of how many options I'd give to a block. Like this is rich text. Like this one doesn't have too much. It's like 2 columns, title, body. Well, this one is, I'm sure this one is slightly more complex. Let's see. This is just an images block with sub images. So this one is not too crazy. But as you can see, these are those modular blocks. And we
Having
will have
access
to
to that
see
schema
how
is,
far you can push that limit, to be honest.
Right.
We have to figure that out.
we know there are some very complicated modular
Oh,
block
yes.
instances.
Block configurations. Yeah.
But it also works with references and stuff. Like I have some personal projects where I also say, just add me 5 of the latest articles and it will actually find the reference and put them in. So it can do all of those things.
There's a question that's asking if Polaris will work across stacks or if it's stack agnostic. At launch, it will just relate to one stack. As far as what beyond that, could probably expand that, but not in scope for kind of immediate release. But
As far as I know it now, and this is why this is still not fully finalized, right? Christine, of course, knows more, but the idea is that once this is actually live in a few months, when you open this, in this stack on this page, it has the context of this thing, so I can ask it something about it. If I now go to another stack and I open Polaris, it has context about that stack.
That stack.
So it's context based of where you are. And so that's why it also, that really helps you to be able to say, just change the image on this page on the hero and it will have that context and it's able to do it. Interestingly, it already has the context. When I say do it, it understands, but we didn't build in the tools yet to actually then change it right now while on the page. But that's something that's coming. Christine, please hit me up in the chat if I'm saying things that are not true. But as far as I'm aware, this is still good.
And then Grace asked, how do I get the chart page with Polaris? I don't see Polaris on my content stack. So I think, Grace, the chart page you're talking about is audience insights, and that's through the data and insights functionality on the platform. So you would need to Install that, and then also add the real event tag so you could collect data. And once you're
Yeah, so
collecting
with this,
data, then you would get that chart populated, but it's separate from Polaris. Polaris just uses that information and helps you synthesize it. And Polaris is a part of Agent OS, which will be coming out in a few months.
yeah, so
But
it's
this is
basically
a
just we have
great
to update your plan for you. Talk to your
Yeah.
closest CSM, and we will help you.
But this is a great segue into what we think is probably the best action step you can take from this call to get ready for Agent OS and when it goes to GA and becomes available, is in order for it to have the context of your audience data and engagement, installing the Audience Insights app right now, which is free and available to all CMS customers, is a great way to start gathering those insights so that when you do decide to start taking advantage of that, and when Agent OS comes out, you already have kind of a built-up repository of engagements from the site over a few months.
Right. Which is what you want, right? Because you wouldn't really action on just a couple weeks of data, right? You probably want to have at least a month, if not a little bit
You
more, to
actually
start
need a
making
minimum of
decisions.
6 weeks, though.
Weeks, yeah.
And so
I would
we
go
kind of
2 months to 3 months.
it's a
Honestly.
minimum. Like the more data you have, the more clever it gets, and the more the CDP can do.
Yeah.
And so for this demo, we actually made our own data. So we can really show you this demo always the same, but like you will just get automatically filled up.
And one thing that we'll follow up with with the recording is some instructions on how to set up the Audience Insights app for those who haven't done so yet. Because again, if you want to take one action or one thing away from today of how to prepare or put yourself in the best place to start using Agent OS when it becomes available, set up your insights, your Audience Insights app and JavaScript tag on your site. Start collecting those insights, and then you can start asking, once Agent OS comes out, you can start engaging with Polaris, asking it all kinds of questions to get specific answers, context specific to your audience.
I'd also say if you have the opportunity now to set up brand kit, and if you don't have that yet, we talk to your CSM to figure out if it fits your plan, and if it does, because this is also something that takes some time, right? How do I figure out what my voice is? Like Lo, you know a bit more about that, so maybe you want to take that.
Yeah, and just, it takes some time to compile all of these assets and things. So you can start having those conversations now, because if it's not you, someone in your organization probably has a lot of this information already written down and documented somewhere as far as your brand guidelines or the writing tone, the video tone, the tone in which your organization overall likes to present itself, and also things like what shouldn't we say, or what kind of terminology we should use. So you can start compiling that information now as well.
I think because we're nearing the end here, Aaron has a really good question. Can you put that on, Brandon?
Yeah, I think this is what you showed in the initial demo, was showing a threshold where we would offer that vacation package until you pass a certain threshold of that lookalike model to show that you look or resemble like a Premier customer. And so same going into any kind of custom agent.
Context, this one. I think this is more on the LLM level.
Yeah.
You think? And we actually internally set a few of those settings already. But we're finding a way, like, are we going to just open this up for everyone to set like these very specific model LLM instructions you can set based on this, or that we just do it for you? Because some of the products we will fix what the model is, but others, of course, you can get to choose. And so there will be a whole bunch of levers that you can start changing to make this work well for your organization. Like I don't have the ability to show it now because we currently do it internally.
And Scott, I know you asked about is there going to be any additional cost or pricing? This is something we're still trying to actively figure out, but likely, and also dependent upon if you're bringing your own LLM, your own credentials, but likely be a credit-based system for building out custom agents. But more details to come there on some of the other experiences within Agent OS. But most of the pricing stuff will be around building out custom agents.
This app, though, it comes from the marketplace, but it's currently hidden. So if it's turned on your organization that you get the data and insights and the connection stuff, then this app will just show up. So it's not exactly something you find and have to turn on. We will just do that for you.
Yes. And if you need more information about that, you can reach out to your CSM or us, and we will make sure you get those resources of how to set that up.
But again, we'll include it in our follow-up materials along with the recording. And so yes, that's kind of into the last question. Will there be info shared about what's required setup-wise? And so look out over the next couple of months on different steps you can take. We'll be reaching out with different instructions. Like we said, start with the data and insights app, the audience insights app, get data and insights set up. That's what we think is the most critical thing to start with. And then we'll be in touch over the next few weeks over things you can do now to put yourself in the best position to succeed. This feels like a pretty good place to wrap up.
Yeah.
It's a lot of information
Awesome.
today. If you have other questions, feel free to reach out to us, reach out to your CSM, and we will see you next time.
Awesome. See you,
I'm
everyone.
so
Thanks for
excited.
coming.
Oh,
Yeah, thanks,
do
everyone.
we mention that? Oh, yeah, you cannot really try it now, but we have, if you don't have a CSM because you're not our customer yet, you can also do a free trial or try our Explorer accounts.
Very
So
true.
get a little bit of a taste.
Sign up for free. All right.
Exactly.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Thank you,
We'll see you next time.
everyone.
Cheers.
Bye.